Igama lami nguSindiso Mnisi, mngane wamaviki. My name is Sindiso Mnisi Weeks. I'm 30 years old and I hold a Bachelor of Arts and LLB from the University of Cape Town, as well as a Research Masters in Law and DPhil in Socio-Legal Studies from the University of Oxford. My current position is as a Senior Researcher in the Law, Race and Gender Research Unit and a Senior Lecturer in the Private Law Department at the University of Cape Town. The primary focus of my work is on assisting women in rural areas to gain security by being able to participate actively in the decision-making bodies that make the laws and systems that ultimately impact women's lives either negatively or positively. I spent the formative years of my upbringing living in Soweto. My parents used to drive me an hour and a half through the traffic in the mornings to get me to school in the northern suburbs. As a consequence, we were very often late, and I had a lot of black marks against my name on the school record. People often ask me, what made the difference? What helped me make it through? I guess the answer has multiple parts. For a start, my parents worked very hard to give me the opportunities that I had. I wasn't about to throw them away. Another factor was that I was the only one in my family, in my most immediate surroundings and circles. I had to do what others didn't have the opportunity to do. Another factor is I had people who made a determined effort to mentor me. In my mind, two teachers stand out as having been critical to my development and having encouraged me to work towards excellence, and more importantly, having helped me believe that I could actually achieve it. Mrs. Trail and Mr. Cutler. Mr. Cutler was my history teacher for a brief period in high school, and he had just encouraged me with his words in pointing out my strengths and helping me to see how I actually had something to contribute in the academic sphere. I hadn't had that before, not in high school at least. Mrs. Trail acquired the nickname my mother because she acted like one. She would hunt me out at the end of recess in order to make sure that I would arrive in class on time. It was at a time in my life when I thought it was cool to be late, and I actually made a concerted effort to arrive in class, quote-unquote, fashionably late. My friends and I would sit on what we'd nicknamed the taxi because it was the one bench in the matric quad that was always inhabited by the black girls. And so I would just sit there and act all cool, not wanting to arrive in class any time before when I would deem it fashionably late. Mrs. Trail wasn't having any of that. She decided that this single black girl in her class was going to excel. And so she would hunt me out. In fact, it got so bad that I actually started having to hide in order to pursue my objective. So, with Mrs. Trail's help and her encouragement, I worked on my English. I worked really hard, and I worked on my writing skills. And would you believe it? I matriculated with an A in English, despite the fact that another one of the English teachers had told her class of matriculants that no black girl had ever graduated with anything above a C for English. It's people like that who really invest in you as an individual, who actually make the difference between just skating through, being rather mediocre, and actually doing really well, and developing even a passion for education. So I'm thankful to the people who played that role in my life. And though Mr. Cutler and Mrs. Trail stand out amongst many, there were the others who formed part of that chorus of voices that spoke into my life and led me to work harder and to believe that I could become something and make a worthwhile contribution in this world. Ultimately, it's these kinds of people and my experience that leads me to believe that this initiative is really important. Because if young people are to be the future that we hope that this country and this world will see, the positive future that we so desperately need, then they're going to need to be well educated and to be encouraged by people who will invest in them directly and help them to gain access to the kinds of opportunities that open doors and empower people's minds so that people are making progressive decisions and developing progressive policies and systems that will overturn the injustice that we see in the world today. The first objective of this initiative is to provide access to information concerning scholarships and degree programs so that it's all available in one place and young people who would otherwise not have access to this information can obtain it rather easily. The second objective is to provide opportunities for young people to hear stories and see people who look like themselves. I hope that by providing stories of people who started in similar places to themselves, young people will be able to say, I see myself in that person's story, and if she could do it or he could do it, then so could I. I also hope that by pairing them up with mentors who can speak into their lives and also invest in them and help open up opportunities for them that they might not be able to access on their own, mentors who can assist them in working through their goals and also filling out the forms and writing the essays and all of the things necessary in order to access the kinds of opportunities that we will be providing information for. I hope that this initiative, by lending young people mentorship, people who they can also look up to in the form of role models, and access to information that usually is only available through intimate networks that most Black young people aren't able to access, will help young Black people to dream bigger and to be able to make those dreams actually a possibility.